Friends, today's NRI Sama program from Los Angeles brought to you commercial free by listeners like you. Your generous donations make possible for us to stay commercial free, and today's show is pre-recorded. If you have a question for the guest, please send an email to nrisama@gmail.com. We will follow up with the guest and find the answer for you. Thank you for your support.
Friends, welcome back to NRI Sama. This is your host for today's show, Sri Hari. Friends, we have seen the impact of Panama Papers. It's the biggest leak in the history. It's even bigger than the WikiLeaks that has rocked the world. And the Panama leaks, we have already seen some biggest names in the country and also around the world. And you have seen Iceland's Prime Minister stepping down, and a few other big names. Putin's name was there, and we are just at the beginning of this, friends, and we expect to see a lot more names, a lot more stories coming out of it. And today we have with us Jay Mazoomdaar. He is associate editor at Indian Express, and he is one of the few who was actually part of this global team of journalists who worked on this for months and months, almost a year, to dig through these millions of documents and make some sense out of it. Friends, Jay is actually a recipient of a number of journalism awards. Some of his work actually led to changes in the government policy. So we are very happy that Jay is with us. Jay, thanks for joining us today. I know your time is very important, so we appreciate you taking part in this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
To begin with, could you please tell us what the Panama Papers are and why is it a big deal?
Mm-hmm. 8 to 9 months back, we were approached by ICIJ, and they told us that there is a large pool of data which will require a long time to mine, and then we have to work on the results we get. So at that point of time, we were excited, but because we have a bit of a history of working with them. We have done 2 collaborative projects earlier with ICIJ. Our editor investigation, Ritu Sarin, she is a member of the consortium. And so we were excited, but we had no idea that how big and how huge this data pool was going to be. The data, I should make it clear in the beginning that these are all records and data from one particular law firm which provides offshore services. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of such law firms, small and big. So this, we knew, is not the entire picture. It's only a fraction of it. But the story of this law firm, this offshore service providing law firm, is pretty much the story of the offshore industry. And here I should also mention, though a little out of context, is that the names you have are the names who happen to use this law firm for their purposes. There could be hundreds others who use other law firms, and those information we don't have. Now, getting back to the Panama Papers story, some unknown source which we don't know about, they approached German newspaper, Das Deutsche Zeitung, and they realized that the quantity of data is so big, and also because it involves all countries across the world, so it has to be done in a collaborative project. So they, being a partner of ICIJ, they approached ICIJ, and ICIJ in turn contacted its global partners in different countries. So the process started, and the quantity was overwhelming. Probably you have seen that there were 11.5 million documents. And by documents, I mean some of those documents could contain hundreds of pages. So for India, to begin with, we had some 36,000 plus documents, which ran into 200 to 300,000 pages, which is like reading up more than 1,000 paperbacks, fat paperbacks. And then the leads that we got, we had to work on them, we had to verify them, and all of it had to be done within the global deadline and given the constraints of our resources. Indian Express, of course, has this culture of investigation, and it was very generous to put three of us. We didn't have to do pretty much anything else during those 8 months. We put our entire time in this, and the hard work paid off in the sense that we got hundreds of names, but given the deadline and the resource constraint, we had to focus on 50 odd for now. But this is no way an investigation which is over. I know the names which remain and the leads and the clues that we gathered in the process, they demand much more work, and they also promise many more stories. So this will go on. And why is this important? That can be explained from a global perspective and also from an Indian perspective. From a global perspective, a lot of the services that offshore firms provide and the offshore industry as such, we cannot call it illegal. All this can be used within the law if someone wants to do it lawfully. But what we saw and what we already knew, because this offshore thing is becoming a big issue in the last few years, many countries are coming together to have clear rules and clear regulations to tackle this, because it is becoming global menace. Be it you call about drug money, you call about pretty much anything else. So we have seen how others, the drug lords, the traffickers in arms and all such things, they are using it. It is also being used, offshore tool is being used by big political names. It is being used by the industry. And in the Indian context, to be more specific, see, our rules, the RBI rules, changed over the years, and it can be safely said that till 2003, whoever went offshore to set up a company or to acquire share or to invest, these are all, broadly speaking, illegal. 2004 onwards, when RBI allowed Indians to go out and put money, they put a cap on individuals and also set some rules for the companies that how much they can invest. But there, one key thing is that it said that Indians can acquire share in companies, but you cannot set up companies. Now, what happens is that if you have such firms who have shelf companies ready for you, and you go there and you acquire 100% stake in that company, so in the eyes of the law, it could be that you are still acquiring share. But for all practical purposes, these are setting up fresh companies. Because,
you are the owner of the company.
Because before you went there and picked up these shelf companies, those shelf companies did not do anything. I mean, they were just there on paper. So you may argue that the company was incorporated on a day before you acquired it, but the company with all its activity came into life only when you acquired it. So but for all practical purposes, it's setting up a company. So that is there, and also the other thing here, that the LRM limit that RBI set, which increased from $25,000 a year, and then it came down also in between 2007 and 2010, and now it is $2.5 lakh a year. So in many cases, we have seen companies which are formed in recent years, which is not illegal, but they are formed with the intent of holding assets, which is much beyond that LRS limit. Because when these clients order a company, so they have forms where they have to spell out that the purpose of the company, how much assets it would hold, etc., etc. So there we have seen in many cases they have all gone for the categories where it is beyond $1 million or beyond $10 million.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So there, it may be so that it could be that they have a plan to step up their assets over the years to that limit, or it could be that they're investing straight away that much, and if they're doing that, then that's clearly illegal and going by the RBI rules.
I see. Maybe you can, I don't know if you have such information yet or not, but if you can give an example of what you have seen, like IPL, just in case, right, and what they did, that will probably help us understand more clearly.
Yeah, see, in the case of the IPL bidding, this is a very interesting story that we stumbled upon. We saw that one shelf company was created sometime in the month of October 2009. And that Mossack Fonseca, this law firm, they routinely create companies to keep on shelves so that whenever they have clients, they can offer those companies. So this company was acquired in December 2009, and it was formed in 2008 by Mossack Fonseca. And then we see that there is a bidding for an IPL franchise in March 2010. So you have to understand that these companies, they can have a proxy directors, proxy shareholders, proxy secretaries, all provided by the law firm. So there you don't have any means to know that who the real names behind these are. But for its internal record, Mossack Fonseca always tries to know that who is the real person, who the ultimate beneficiary or the beneficial owner, the way they put it, of that company. So this company was formed in December, and then sometime in early March 1st or something, they get a request from the law firm, the other law firm that was the client for the company, that they have to sign the MOU, that the company has to sign the MOU with some partners for some purpose. So they sent a copy of the MOU, which shows that some big names in the Indian film industry and two big groups, Videocon Group and Panchil Group, that's a big Bombay group, Bombay Realty Group. So they are all a part of a MOU, which will form, which will be formed to bid for the IPL franchise. Now, as soon as they get the request, Mossack Fonseca asks the law firm that that's all right, but who is the beneficial owner? I mean, that we need for our records. But it happens so that another office of Mossack Fonseca, they signed the MOU on behalf of the company, and they send it back. Now, afterwards, thrice Mossack Fonseca asked them that we need to know the name of the beneficial owner, and they are never told. And once the bidding was done, which was unsuccessful, they were told that the company doesn't have any asset, any liability. It is not required, so shut it down. Now, here we know that clearly a company was formed for the purpose of IPL bidding. That's one. Number two, this company, which held 15% stake in the company which would be formed upon successful bidding, and the MOU says that this company can again create another company to invest. So there is provision again to add another layer of secrecy. So to my mind, this clearly shows that in a consortium of well-known groups and individuals, you create a faceless company, and upon successful bidding, that faceless company could be given any face. And whoever becomes the owner of that company gets to own 15% of the franchise. So in this case, the offshore was used to create this space to accommodate someone, we don't know who it is, to create space someone who the other members of the consortium, I would imagine, owed something for whatever purpose. And that typical 15% stakeholding also suggests that it's some kind of sweat equity.
Yeah. Just to go back a little bit, as you mentioned, there's 11.5 million documents, which is, I heard, more than 2 terabyte of data.
2.6, yeah.
How did they transfer? I mean, how did they give it to this newspaper to begin with?
No, that was one enormous challenge, but the data did not reach us at one go, so that made our job even more difficult because we never knew that our work on a particular individual or entity is done. Like, whatever information, whatever data pool we have checked that for this one particular name, because every few months the data kept multiplying.
I see.
So we had to do the things all over again.
Wow.
And the data was provided in a common platform, and it was not possible to, not possible to share or distribute in physical form.
Right.
So it was online, and ICIJ had invested resources to create a forum where we could do our searches, we could collaborate on our findings, discuss it, and also many members they innovated as they went, and those innovations were shared, that how to maximize our results from our efforts and get good information. So it was, in that sense, a real collaboration, that not only the data was given to each partners and they did what they could. In this case, they mostly focused on their own country, but also we shared our innovations, and every time in the process we found some information which is very critical for another partner, as it is about something in his or her country. Those are also shared, and that way we made sure that we don't miss too many things.
Friends, NRI Sama is a non-profit independent alternate media from Los Angeles, USA, which brings positive stories from grassroots activists from all corners of India and across the world. NRI Sama does not rely on corporate funding, and our shows are commercial free. We only rely on your donations. Corporate funded media is driven by the TRP rating, and profits are blurring the distinction between news and entertainment. Why do our news channels talk so much about cricket, movies, accidents, popular figures' personal lives, babies of heroines, gossips, etc., while they should be covering the struggles of people, inequality in our society, rural issues, and border security issues? Why did our media raise some corruption crusaders to the sky on one day and shut them off completely when graft charges were raised on those corporate sponsors? Media relies so much on the corporate funding and government blessings that they cannot report independently. NRI Sama is different. We don't accept funds from any corporations, and hence our shows are commercial free. We completely rely on donations from you. Please consider donating to NRI Sama, and please go to nrisama.com and donate generously. This is the only way together that we can continue NRI Sama. All donations are kept transparent on nrisama.com. And if you have any questions, please write to nrisama@gmail.com.
I see. And so I'm guessing somebody like a whistleblower was releasing these documents, right? Somebody who's in the law firm is probably releasing this every month or whatever for so many months.
That is something we can't say for sure, because that was strictly between one organization, as I told you, the German newspaper, Zeitung, and the source of the leak. And from Zeitung, it was shared to all of us through ICIJ. But it came in batches. It didn't come at one go.
I see. And we know about the Nera radio tapes and how there's a collusion between so many big players. In that kind of scenario, how is this integrity maintained with so many journalists working on this? And we haven't seen this coming out. I mean, in the mainstream media, nobody knows about this. So how is that maintained?
See, that is something which shows that this was not only the largest collaborative project, but probably also the best managed collaborative project. We had more than 100 organizations working, more than nearly 300-400 journalists working. So there was a constant reminder that, the partners were chosen very carefully.
Yeah.
But at the same time, over 8 months, one small careless mistake could give it away. Like, if you lose your password and someone picks it up. But the firewalls were sound. We had to go through a series of firewalls to access data or even join the forum to discuss our findings. So I would say that, technologically speaking, it was quite sound, but there was always a human element.
Exactly.
And going through this process for 8 months, and in some countries they started a little early, so they probably gone through this process for a year. So to keep absolute secrecy for a year, and you can well imagine that it's not a very, how should I put it? I mean, going through data in the initial months was not something that most reporters would love to do. I mean, we enjoy field work, we enjoy going out. So those came later, but the initial months when it could easily become boring unless you are coming up with great names.
Yeah.
And it happened that we had nothing for days together. And then suddenly we had a few good clues over 2 days. So during those low times, it could have been possible that, that somebody, maybe just the frustration or the boredom, one could share with someone. But it looks like that everybody did really well, and nobody had an idea outside.
Yeah, especially when somebody sees names like Amitabh Bachchan or Aishwarya Rai, there is a tendency that they want to, go out and share that kind of information. But this is just amazing, unbelievable. For such a long time, so many people just kept it secret.
And also, probably in a sense that, in India, I can say that we have been expressed a small investigative group, so that group was doing this. And but even so, there were provocations from even friends and colleagues in the industry who used to ask us that, what are you up to? I mean, we don't see your bylines often. And then after months of not being seen on the newspaper, such provocations, sometimes one would feel like to say that, we are doing something, which will come after many months. But even that didn't happen. So all credit to the team.
And in India, was there an exclusivity for Indian Express? And if so, for how long?
Yeah, it's obviously exclusive because we are a partner and we are a member of ICIJ. And I don't think that new organizations in India are joining this. But we have been a partner of ICIJ since a long time. In 2013, we did our first collaborative project. And then again in 2015, the offshore lakes and the Swiss lakes, which had good results. The government could initiate legal proceedings against a few hundred names. So I think we and ICIJ, we are quite comfortable with each other, and it should stay so far India is concerned.
Right. And so far we have seen some names, but looks like there's more to come, right? What do you think we can expect going forward?
See, there will be more names. There may not be too many names at this stage, but there will be some surely. And as I said before, that the data has so much more. And because of the global deadline and the resources, we had to draw a line somewhere that we will do this much now and then we'll continue. So I'm quite confident and hopeful that there will be more names and more links, more importantly, and which we will be able to find and establish and verify in days and weeks to come. And I think this kind of data pool, I mean, this has huge promise, and we will, just because we have some names and some links, we are not closing the investigation. We have to keep digging in this.
I see. And do you think at some point all this data will be made public for public to even go through the document?
No, I don't think so. The ICIJ and the partners also, we have a clear policy that we have to do it in a responsible way. As I said, that the offshore business and the offshore service providing firms, they can function within the law.
Right.
So what we are finding which suggests illegalities, we are not even claiming that these are illegalities. Our job is to report what we find. But also in the data, there are private informations of individuals who have done their own things, own investment. So I don't think it's fair to dump the entire data, and there are privacy issues. So those data won't serve any public interest, but they will compromise individual privacy. So a list of names and their connections, ICIJ will put out globally in early May, but not the entire data.
I see. And probably the government can demand, right? I think they can, if they are going to investigate on this, maybe they will ask for this kind of data.
Government can access this data, I guess, from the respective governments, because these companies are all set up in, I think, roughly in 6-7 countries. So the government can approach the firm directly through respective governments, and also can access data through the registry. But again, as a news organization, ICIJ is very clear in that sense that they are not an arm of the government or an enforcement agency. So ICIJ will not share the data with any government.
I see. And the names we have seen so far, the few names we have seen so far, was there any option given to them before publishing them, whether they can explain or they have a chance to respond or something like that?
Yeah, everyone was approached. Everyone whose name figures were approached at least 10 days, in some cases 2 weeks in advance, and they were given enough time. And it's not that we just sent a customary mail and we thought our job is done. We made sure that they received the mail. We made sure that they have gone through our queries, and then it was up to them that whether they want to respond or not. Most of them have, a few haven't, and some of them have responded after the stories were published. So in all cases, like the Adani Group reacted after the story was published, for example, and Mr. Bachchan did not respond before the story was published. His office issued a statement after the story was published. So barring some cases like this, most have responded to our queries. And we are carrying those explanations or responses entirely.
I see. And I know you said there's more work to done, but could you give us, some kind of sense? What are you going? How the rest of the research will happen? Now that it's public, it will be probably much different than working before.
Yeah. No, see, it will continue at two levels. One is that we have done a very rigorous job of looking into the data, but we want to keep doing that because it's entirely possible, given the volume of the data, that there are things we may have not accessed yet. And at the second level is that we have many connections which apparently doesn't give known names. They may lead to strange addresses and people we have never heard about. But in some cases, these and also among the known entities. There are some cases which suggest there are some leads which may link these entities to others who are less
it's popular.
Who would be I mean, those names would be more newsworthy. People would love to read about them.
Yeah.
So those dots you have to connect, and it will take time, but we'll keep working.
And just last question. So we have seen WikiLeaks, and with so much exposed, but things kind of, it did not change the world at least in my view. But I mean, this is much bigger leak in terms of the volume. Do you think we will the world is going to change? Do you think we'll see at least some kind of a major shift in the way we do businesses?
See, we have to be hopeful because, and we can be hopeful because at least in India, in the last two investigations in black money that we did, Geneva Leaks and also the Swiss bank, the government have initiated proceedings against hundreds of individuals. So we're hopeful since the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, they have reacted immediately, and they have set up a multi-agency team, including the RBI. So we hope that they will go through the findings and do what is needed. And globally, I think slowly we are coming to a situation where most countries acknowledge that offshore industry is a big threat, in the sense that the amount of taxpayers, tax money they lose, and many of these countries are really poor countries. I doubt they can afford to lose so much money to tax to these offshore entities. And now that a number of global heads have reacted and have, including the US President, they have said that now we need to look at tax reforms. Because, to sum it up, I can tell you that we should look at three levels. And to put it very simply, in this huge list of names, there could be some who have done nothing wrong. They are entirely on the right. There could be some who have clearly broken the law. So there is the ambiguity that they have done things illegal.
Yeah.
But the majority, they don't appear to have broken the law, but they have found ways to circumvent and outskirt the law and have their way. So in that context, we need legal reforms, tax reforms, to see that something that a person can't do legitimately, another person should not be able to do that in a way that seems legitimate.
Yeah,
it's not fair.
Our country is facing so many issues. So many farmers are dying, and so drought issues and so many issues. And we have these individuals or companies playing with the rules basically, and doing money laundering kind of activities. So yeah, I mean, even if it is legal, even if they can get away, I think from public point of view, I think this is a big thing. I think the people can just get away. I think even if they don't go to jail, I think their names are kind of tainted once they come out.
Let's hope the government will do what is right. Our work is based on hope, so we can carry on only as long as we're hopeful that things will change.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all really appreciate what you guys are doing, because these days we are kind of losing hope on journalism, because a lot of people are not doing investigative kind of journalism. So whatever you guys are doing, it's a great work. And somebody was telling whistleblowers are actually going to save the democracy. So, and journalists like you.
So. Yeah, it looks like so.
Before we wrap up, anything else you would like to say, Jay?
I would say not about the leaks, but I would say something about journalism, that you were saying that we things are changing, times are changing, but you have to remember that that our profession demands the kind of work that we are meant to do, and it may require investment of resources. But I think I personally I'm very grateful to my organization, because this was a great learning experience, and to get to do what we have done over this long period is something every journalist looks ahead to. So on that note, I think I would expect that this would encourage other houses to invest more time and money in investigation.
Yeah, and I'm sure you made a lot of friends across the borders, right? You probably know a lot more, journalists. You probably met a lot of these, especially who are investigative and in your field.
Yeah. That this global collaboration was really good in the sense that we met a number of like-minded people who believe in slow and a dive deep journalism, and that was a nice experience knowing that there are so many of them around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay, thank you very much, both for what you do and also for spending this time with us.
Thank you.
Friends, if you liked today's show, please go to youtube.com/NRI Sama and click on the subscribe button. You will get notified every time we publish a new show. And you can also like us on our social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Google+.